Hello everyone, my name is Kay Chamberlain and welcome to my channel where I talk about comic books. This week, we're talking about Friday the 13th, How I Spent My Summer Vacation, a 2-issue miniseries written by Jason Aaron with art by Adam Archer and Peter Guzman. The series follows a young boy named Davie Faulkner who has a degenerative bone disease that gives him a similar appearance to Jason Voorhees. The series chronicles his time at Crystal Lake and his encounter with Jason Voorhees himself, which doesn't go the way that he expects. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the miniseries, shall we? It begins by immediately ignoring some of the stuff that we saw in the Pamela's Tale miniseries. In that miniseries, when Pamela drops her son Jason off at Camp Crystal Lake, she is very stern with him and forces him to take part in the camp with the other kids and spending time with the counselors, while in this book, she's a lot warmer to him. Like, she loved him in the other miniseries, but in this one, she's presented a lot more as a nurturing and loving mother than in that series where she is a very stern, determined mother who orders Jason around and isn't that warm with him. Or as warm as you would think a mother would be. We cut to present day where a bunch of kids are sitting around a fire telling the story of Jason Voorhees, and this one kid starts pointing at Davie Faulkner and making fun of him, saying that Jason Voorhees looked a lot like him, and Davie's just like, come on guys, just leave me alone. And all the kids are like, nah, you look like Jason Voorhees, so let's do a little bit of a ritual to him and throw you in the lake, just like they threw Jason into the lake back then, because these kids are all horrible. This kid Davie has done nothing, he doesn't deserve any of this, and yet they pick him up, he starts screaming as they carry him over to the lake. Meanwhile, in the middle of the woods, there are a couple of teenagers sleeping together in some sleeping bags. One of them wakes up and is just like, did you hear that? I thought I heard something. And the guy's just like, nah babe, let's just go back to sleep, come on. 5 more minutes. So they go back to sleep. Jason Voorhees arrives. He picks up their sleeping bags, and in an homage to a death in one of the Friday the 13th films, he grabs their sleeping bags and he smacks them against a nearby tree multiple times, killing both of them. He cracks open the woman's skull, because he opens up the sleeping bag and we get to see the aftermath. And you see her skull is cracked open, you can see her brains, and his arm has the bone coming out of its socket. It's pretty gnarly. Jason's standing there with it open, just like, ta-da! Davie gets thrown into the lake by the other kids, and he's just splashing around in the lake, crying, and the other kids are all laughing at him, and they hear a scream, and one of the kids like, oh my god, Davie screams like a girl. And one of them is like, that ain't Davie. And so this other kid turns around, and he sees Jason slaughtering the other girls at the camp. So already we're establishing that, much like the Jason that has been established in the movies, this Jason has no qualms with killing children. For some reason, there are some people who haven't watched the movies or have watched some of them that think that Jason doesn't kill children, but he does. He always has. He's never had a problem with that. I don't know why people think that he has some kind of code against killing children when he's done it many times in the movies. Often the only times that children haven't died in the movies is because they've gotten really lucky and have managed to get away from Jason, or they've killed him. This one girl gets her arm slashed off, this other girl gets thrown into the fire, which burns her to a crisp. And he proceeds to chase after the guys that threw Davie into the lake and kills them too. Kills all the children. As Davie crawls out of the lake, Jason approaches him holding the head of one of the bullies. And Davie's already having a bad day, but now he's face to face with Jason Voorhees. He's just like, what the hell? Jason looks at him, and because Davie reminds him of his younger self, he doesn't kill Davie. He lifts the machete above his head, but as soon as he sees what Davie looks like, he puts the machete behind his head and doesn't go for the kill. 2 remaining counselors tell Davie to run away from Jason and to come to them, to get away, and Jason just lets him get away. I mean, he kinda chases after Davie, but not really. Davie runs away and Jason just kinda like walks after him. So he's like, hey, where you going? And then we meet the worst character in the book, Sheriff Tannehill. Maybe the worst sheriff to ever graze a book or a movie or anything. Because the first time we see this guy, he's talking to himself. He clearly has some kind of personality disorder or something, because he's talking to himself as if he's talking to somebody else. He's just off his head right now. He's smoking crack. It's like he's egging himself on to smoke the crack. He's like, yeah, you want to smoke it, don't you, you piece of shit, don't you? The rest of his squad call him in because they need help at Crystal Lake because they're currently fighting Jason, because apparently they arrived at Crystal Lake some point off panel and started fighting him. So he decides to drive over high on crack. When he arrives, he finds the 2 counselors carrying Davie with Jason right behind them, and so one of the counselors calls to Tannehill and asks him to help them, and he's like, alright, yeah, I'll do that, I'll help that thing. Like, what the hell are you doing behind those counselors? I'll kill the hell out of you with my gun. And he pulls his gun out. Dude's just smoked crack, so he should not be handling a gun right now. And he begins firing the gun at Jason and the counselors. 2 of the bullets hit the counselors, killing both of them. Their heads just explode. It's so awful. And only 2 of them hit Jason, and they both hit him in the shoulders. And because he's Jason Voorhees and he's a zombie, they don't do anything. So he's just killed these 2 counselors for no reason. He also doesn't seem to care at all. It doesn't faze him whatsoever. Jason walks up to Davie. He grabs Davie and he starts dragging him away. And the sheriff doesn't even do anything about it. He doesn't even try to run up to Jason and stop Davie. It's kind of smart for him not to do that, but at the same time, he doesn't even try to do anything except shoot bullets. He could have had time to run up to Davie, grab him and yank him away from Jason before Jason even had a chance to move. No, instead, the sheriff is less worried about Davie and more worried about his own reputation if they ever find out that he killed these 2 counselors. So he tries to cover it up by grabbing a nearby machete and making it look like Jason killed them. He gets a call from one of his squad members who's like, Tannehill, where the hell are you? This guy, this zombie-looking thing, he's killing our squad. We're trying to kill this guy. He's just killing all of us. And Davie's forced to watch all of this. He's behind Jason as Jason is killing all these cops. He's just like, this isn't real. This can't be real. Someone, please. The last remaining member of his squad starts shooting at Jason as Jason approaches him slowly. Jason just reaches out to his gun, stopping the bullets and taking the gun from him. He's like, oh god, pepper spray, pepper spray. How's that taste, slap shot? He sprays the pepper spray in Jason's face. And because he's wearing a mask, it doesn't really affect him. And even if he wasn't, he's a zombie, so I doubt it would have done anything to him. Unfazed, Jason just grabs the guy's head, shoves his finger in his mouth, and rips the guy's head in half off panel. All we see is a massive crunch sound as the guy's blood splatters all over Jason's mask. Honestly, I kinda wish we saw it. We've seen worse things in this book. I mean, the very first book I ever covered of Friday the 13th on here included a guy getting severed in half on the first page, so I kinda wish we got to see this guy get his head ripped open. Even if I would have had to have censored most of it. Jason throws Davie over his shoulder and carries him away. 3 hours later, the FBI arrive. They are ready to go after Jason after they've seen what he's done to all of these people, and the sheriff wants to go along with them. They don't want him to go with them because they don't need his help. They have a whole bunch of military with them, so they think they'll be fine. But the reason Tannehill wants to go is because if they find Davie, then Davie will just tell them what happened. He'll spill the beans, and they'll find out that Tannehill was the one that killed the two counselors, and then he'll be in big trouble. So he doesn't want that to happen. So he decides to go and find Davie before they do. Ain't no way in hell that kid makes it out of here alive. So he's basically saying, I'm gonna kill that kid before he can tell the FBI what I did. Just increasing the list of reasons to really hate this guy. Like absolute scum. Meanwhile, Davie continues to narrate his experience as he is being carried away by Jason Voorhees. It's pretty funny. Greetings from Camp Piney Woods, along the banks of idyllic Crystal Lake. My name is Davie Faulkner, and I was already having a pretty shitty week. Even before being abducted into the mountains by an undead machete-wielding mass murderer, I'm fairly confident in now officially proclaiming this the worst summer vacation in recorded history. Wish you were here. A Christian family are currently on vacation. The reports of the Jason situation blaring out of their radio, so their daughter Meg is told to turn off the radio so that they can say grace. And so they start saying grace. Dear Lord, we thank you for what we are about to receive, and we ask you, Lord, to watch over us on our vacation and keep us safe, and to help us spread your word, Lord, to whomever we might meet along the way. And please continue to guide our president in these trying times and give him the strength to defeat those enemies out to destroy this country, the terrorists and the Mexican drug lords and the gays. All these things we humbly pray. Amen. And as they finish giving grace, Jason appears behind them and slaughters them all off panel. I love this book's sense of dark comedy. There's a lot of it in this. This is probably the best instance of dark comedy in this, is this Christian family who is incredibly homophobic, wishing death on people and praying for their own safety, only to be killed by Jason Voorhees, meaning that God wasn't actually protecting them, probably because they weren't showing love for thy neighbor, which is one of the main teachings in the Bible. The reason Jason killed this family is because he's secretly harboring Davie Faulkner, supplying him with food and stuff. He steals this family's food and brings it back to Davie, and the last time we saw Davie, he said he was having the worst summer vacation ever, but now he believes he's having the best summer vacation ever because Jason is protecting him and he feels a kinship with him because Jason understands what it's like to be like Davie because he too has a physical deformity. So the two of them can connect over that, and the only difference between them is that Jason is a psychopath. Or as Davie prefers to put it, Jason has the confidence to attack those who are mean to him. Something that Davie has never had the courage to do. So he looks up to Jason for that. He likes Jason because he's like, yeah, Jason is attacking and killing these people who have wronged him. I wish I could be more like him. I wish I could stand up to the people who make fun of me. But Jason really isn't the best role model. He's busy killing all of these military guys, and we see that his influence on Davie is really bad because there's one military man who is saying his last prayers because he knows he's gonna die, and Davie walks over and picks up the guy's knife because he's starting to learn from Jason and become a killer. Meanwhile, Sheriff Tannehill, who is still high on meth, is determined to kill Davie. He doesn't give a crap about Jason, he just wants to kill this kid. And at the same time, because he's high on drugs, he keeps thinking that there's spiders on his skin, so he's scratching his skin when there's nothing there. That is important for later, I'm not just mentioning it because it's random, it is important. One of the military copters is notified that Tannehill is currently on the run and is wanted for murder, but it turns out that Tannehill has already hijacked this helicopter, and he says, give me your gun so that I can shoot him and kill the guy. And they think he's referring to Jason, but he's not referring to Jason, he wants to shoot and kill Davie. So he grabs a rifle in order to kill Davie and sits outside he sits where the door to the helicopter is as they fly by. One of the other guys on the helicopter tries to stop him, and Tannehill just shoves the guy out of the helicopter. The guy falls down, not to his death though, because he hits a rock below, and it leaves him pretty messed up, but not dead. His arm is split open, one of his arms is broken off. This guy is barely alive, and then Jason walks over to him and puts him out of his misery, which is probably the nicest thing that Jason has done in this comic besides feeding and looking after Davie. He put this guy out of his misery. This guy was going to die a slow and painful death, and Jason decided to end it quickly. Tannehill tries to get the pilot to swing the helicopter back around so he can take another shot at the kid, but the pilot doesn't want to do it because Jason is too dangerous and they need to save the kid. He doesn't even listen to Tannehill when Tannehill tells him that he's trying to kill this kid. He's too focused at the head flying straight through the windscreen of the helicopter, the head of his former friend. Pilot can't see where he's going, and so he crashes the helicopter straight into a nearby tree. The sheriff falls out of the helicopter, so he manages to survive the ensuing explosion that happens when the helicopter smashes into the forest below, killing the pilot. But Davie tells Jason that they gotta leave because they're gonna try and kill him. They need to get out of there, go to safety, and so Jason follows Davie. The sheriff is alive. He climbs his way up a cliff in order to chase after Davie and Jason, and nothing happens for the rest of the night. Davie and Jason spend the night in a nearby cave, and when morning comes, Jason decides to leave, but Davie doesn't want him to leave because if he leaves, they'll find him and they'll take him home, and he doesn't want to go home yet. He wants to be with Jason. But then the sheriff comes out of nowhere from behind Davie, because it turns out he was in the cave with them all night, I guess, and Jason just didn't know. He holds a knife to Davie's throat and is saying that he's gonna slit it because he wants to kill this kid, but Davie grabs the knife that he picked up earlier and stabs the sheriff in the leg, and the sheriff's just like, wait, did you just stab me in the leg? It's like, you bet your ass I did, and Davie kicks the knife in even further, and the sheriff's just like, ass-faced little bastard, you're dead! And he stumbles backwards and falls into a crevice within the cave. Sheriff eventually lands somewhere in pitch black. It's like, ouch, fell in a damn hole, can't see for shit. Damn lighter here somewhere. And he starts trying to turn on his lighter, and he turns it on. It's like, damn it, still a goddamn spider on me somewhere. And he lifts up his lighter, and we see that he's no longer imagining that there's spiders on his skin. There are actually spiders surrounding him at the moment. It's like, Jason emerges from the cave, and all the military begin firing at him, and Davie tries to stop them because he's like, no, stop it, you're killing him, no! And so the men are like, cease fire, because the kid's there and they don't want to accidentally hit him. Jason falls over, and Davie thinks that he's dead. He's like, no, don't be dead, don't worry, BJ, you and the bear won't be apart for long, because I'm gonna rip his goddamn head off and shove it up your ass. The sheriff appears behind Davie and grabs him by the back of the head, and then he sees the military men there, and they're just like, hey, drop your weapon and let the boy go. Good work there, fellas. I got things from here. Just gonna run this boy home to his mama. Did y'all not hear what I said? I'm Sheriff Elroy P. Tannehill, and I'm the law around here. You boys lower them guns. What's the matter? Y'all smoking meth or something? What are y'all gawking at? Jason appears behind the sheriff and grabs the sheriff by the arm. He's like, hell. And then he crushes his arm. And so the sheriff turns around and stabs Jason in the neck. He's like, let go of me, you two-bit redneck boogeyman. And Davie's just like, no, look out. And Jason and the sheriff both fall off the cliff together. They fall down into the woods below. The sheriff screams at Jason as he falls. I'll see you in hell, Jason Voorhees. They both fall into a tree, hitting at the same time. Jason's mask gets knocked off, while the sheriff has his torso ripped open by the tree, and his guts just start spilling out. The military find Tannehill's body. with his guts suspended from the tree. He's hanging from the tree by his intestines. It's a pretty gross image. The military takes Davie away, and they say that they're going to be searching for a guy in a hockey mask, but they're never going to find him because Jason is no longer wearing his hockey mask. As we see, it is hanging from one of the nearby trees. And as they take Davie away in their car, the guys are mentioning how they couldn't find Jason and that Davie isn't talking at all. And they're just like, what did that psychopath even want with that kid? Like, where was he even taking him? And they drive by a nearby cemetery, which is called Eternal Peace Cemetery. And we find that Jason is within the cemetery. He's gone there to visit not only Pamela Voorhees' grave, but also his own grave. And we see that he no longer has his hockey mask on. He's kind of hiding behind the grave, as if he's hiding his face, because he still feels ashamed of how he looks. He's kind of cowering behind it, and this is where we see that Jason, underneath the hockey mask, is still a vulnerable child who has been traumatized by his childhood and is acting out of rage and trauma. It's a pretty great symbolic moment for Jason Voorhees, and it's capped off with a narration by Davie himself. It's true that a lot of people got killed these past 9 days, which I guess seems kinda mean and all, but you gotta understand, when you're different like Jason and me, it's just a fact of life. If you want to survive, then sometimes a bunch of assholes gotta die. Fair warning to all of you assholes out there. It's almost as if Jason is watching as they take Davie away, planning to maybe someday come after him and retrieve him. It also makes you wonder why he was planning on bringing Davie to his mother's grave. Did he think that maybe it was the chance for his mother, even though she was dead, to reunite with somebody that would remind her of her son? Like Davie being in the grave, like in the cemetery, would resemble him enough that it would be like this symbolic reunion for the family. I guess we'll never know because this miniseries never got a sequel, but I would love it if DC Comics ever had Jason Aaron come back and revisit this story and possibly do a sequel to it, because there's opportunities for a sequel to this, to see what happens to Davie next, to see if Jason goes after him. I really enjoyed this 2-issue miniseries. I enjoyed it a lot more than the Pamela Voorhees miniseries. In fact, this might be my favorite Friday the 13th comic out of all of them. It isn't even that long, and yet it does a really good job of telling a complete story. It's got plenty of gore in it, which I really enjoyed. It's one of the goriest books. It's as gory as some of the earlier ones that I read. I think before this book, the goriest book that I'd read in the Friday the 13th franchise would probably have been Bloodbath. This is surprisingly the first book so far that has framed Jason in more of an anti-hero light. He's not the villain of this book. The villain of this book is Sheriff Tannehill. Jason kills a lot of people in this book, but it's in more of a anti-hero role where he is protecting Davie the way he thinks he needs to. So while he is doing bad things in the book, the sheriff is definitely more of the villain, because the sheriff killed innocent people, didn't even give a crap, and then spent the rest of the book trying to kill Davie instead of killing Jason. He cared more about killing a kid because he didn't want his secret getting out than he did about saving Davie from Jason and just killing Jason instead. Not that Davie wanted to be saved. And that does it for this week's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this comic a lot. Definitely check it out if you want to. Obviously, there were some details that I left out it's definitely worth reading, even if you have watched this video and you know what's going to happen. It's still worth checking it out, because then you get to see all of the gore uncensored. I think that's worth enough to check out the book. It's funny, Jason Aaron is a pretty prolific writer at both Marvel and DC, and yet I think this is the first ever book of his I've read. Might have to tell him that if I ever meet him in the future. Next week, I'm going to be taking a look at another Friday the 13th miniseries called Badlands, which is an interesting miniseries because it takes place in the past and the present. Much further in the past than any book. I'm talking hundreds of years into the past of Camp Crystal Lake. And the events that happened in the past and the events that happened in the present line up with one another and are related in certain ways. So there's a bit of a mystery going on with that, and how the characters in the present are connected to the characters that were there hundreds of years in the past. So look forward to that next week. I hope to see you then. Have a good one.